Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's nice to see some familiar faces from our last office hours. I'm Jenna. I'm the content marketer here at BEMO, and I'll be your host for today. So just a couple of things to go over, and then we'll get started. So office hours, what are they? They're going to be whatever you guys want to make them. I'm sure you remember in college when you would go to office hours with a professor and you could ask questions, get more info, or really whatever you wanted. Well, this will kind of be the same thing. We've got a handful of slides today just to get started, and then we'll be opening it up to you guys. So I'll be monitoring the chat as we go along, so please feel free to drop any questions in there as they come up, or go ahead, raise your hand, unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with. And then just a quick reminder that we will also be presenting a special offer at the end for attendees, so make sure to stick around for that. I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you your expert for the day, Suzanne Sims. Suzanne Sims is our modern work evangelist BEMO. She holds Microsoft certifications in MS 900, MS 700, and is currently working towards the MS 100. Without revealing Suzanne's age, we will tell you that she has been a Microsoft enthusiast for her entire career and has experienced the progression of Microsoft product innovation from the days when graphical operating systems first appeared and the only cloud was that white thing in the sky. Suzanne was actually a BEMO customer prior to joining the BEMO team. She was the IT director of a public school, and she successfully shifted their on-premise infrastructure to the Microsoft Cloud, which paved the way for a very successful distance learning environment during COVID. Finding technology solutions to solve business problems is her forte. Her professional experiences have also made her a jack of all trades, from positions in customer support, network administration, software testing, technical training, all the way to managing an IT company on the Wind River Reservation. She's experienced a multitude of roles and is happy to be here to lend her expertise in these office hours. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Susie.
Thank you, Jenna. So today, I guess we will start with our icebreaker just to get everybody kind of loosened up and feeling free to chat or talk. And if you're not familiar with how to chat, go ahead and load the chat and respond to a question, or you're welcome to come off mute and answer. There's some familiar faces, so we did ask this last time, but where are you joining from today? I'll start by saying I'm in sunny Arizona, 70 degrees. Little bragging there, but
chilly Michigan here.
Chilly Michigan.
Wintry Alaska.
Minnesota. Hello.
Hello.
Costa Rica, Nicaragua. I didn't realize.
Welcome, Richard.
We just asked where everybody's coming from today. We're doing our icebreaker.
South Florida. South Florida.
Boston, my favorite. Love Boston. Okay. In Virginia. I went through college in Virginia. South Carolina. Great. We've got quite a representation here. So yeah, continuing on our icebreaker, then we will ask one more fun thing and then we'll roll. So what was something fun that you guys did last weekend that you'd like to share? Anybody? Guess mine was horseback riding in the desert. Hiking with the baby in the snow. That's a good one.
Not last weekend, but I went to a Red Wings hockey game last night for the first time
Ooh.
ever. That was pretty cool.
That's cool, Adam.
Ooh. Josh, what about you?
Nothing too crazy, actually. Went to a local concert.
Cool. All right, then, guys, we'll get rolling. It's like get right to business here. We'll start out today. We're focusing on email and collaboration security and how Business Premium can address securing our communication applications and protect you against phishing. So if you've been to the previous webinars, we're trying to focus on different topics because there are so many features within Business Premium. We're going in depth today on phishing, advanced protection against phishing. So email is the top entry point for ransomware. We know that. And over 90% of cyber attacks start with email. So obviously defending your email is critical. It's that first defense, critical to stopping them from coming into the threats from coming into your organization. And the threat landscape continues to evolve. So advanced attacks are sometimes difficult to spot, and you've got to have an intelligent solution that always stays one step ahead. And on the next side, I always pull this slide up, but it's kind of like that continual learning, but we'll show you the defense in depth across all the layers. You can't just protect your email, you've got to hit all the layers. You've got to be prepared to fight the battle. And with collaboration tools growing in popularity, hybrid work has given a rise to new methods of communication. So email isn't the only communication form anymore. We've got, with us, Teams chat seems to be more prevalent than email. So all of these new methods of communication represent new threat vectors that we need to defend against. And the slide that I always show, but I want to give us a review for those of you that have been going through and are maybe using this as a learning tool. We'll see how much we've accomplished here going through. So showing you how to SMB challenges can be, the top challenges can be addressed with Business Premium. We have these layers of security, identity. So our first webinar, and I think Julia is going to drop a link to the webinar in the chat. We went into this in depth, and several of you had seen this, I think, but we covered MFA, SSPR, conditional access, and how Business Premium gives you advanced features for identity security. And this was your first line of defense. Then we went into where Business Premium provides device management, right? So with Intune, you get Intune with Premium. You don't get Intune with Standard and Basic. You can manage all the different devices, whether they're iPhones, mobile phones, Android, Macs, and Josh likes Linux. So yeah, we can manage Linux devices. Anyway, that's what we covered last time. So she's going to drop a link into the chat again for the device management one. Thank you. Great. We did not cover how to defend those devices with this enterprise security that Microsoft has added to the Business Premium package, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit next week. Today, we're going to roll on over here into application security, and this is the Defender, can't draw a circle very good, but Defender for Office 365 for protection against malware and zero-day attacks. And then the rest of these are information protection, which would be covered later. Okay. So this is my favorite slide. I don't know if you guys are into Austin Powers, but I am. Click a mysterious email link. I too like to live dangerously. Sure. And maybe some of your employees like to live dangerously. So we have to have this line of protection in order to defend us and help protect your employees from getting malicious links in their email. So everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with phishing, and we're like, yeah, our email server, our software, it obviously catches spam and phishing. So I like this chart, and hopefully you can see all the writing on it. But the first column, I would hope that this is pretty much covered by most all email software. So hackers go phishing, they go for a large number of targets. This is the Prince of Nigeria email. They're low yield targets. They don't have a lot of intelligence on them. They just send the emails out. And there's not a lot of organizational assets at stake. So your basic email filter should be catching these. They're very generic attacks. And then they're just using off-the-shelf phishing tools. So we have to think about what our hackers are using, right? This might be the person that just wants to try it, and they just buy a little off-the-shelf tool on the dark web, and they go for it, and they just try everywhere they can. Okay. So I feel like that one's covered. And today we're going to go over that That's your basic with Microsoft Exchange Online Protection. So you have that if you have Business Standard and if you have Business Basic. Now we're going to move into, because we know the threat landscape is changing and our bad actors are getting more sophisticated, and they know. So over the years, I've seen this in action where it started where everybody used to always get all the spam email, and we all knew that was kind of fake. Then the spam filters kind of filtered, and things would go in your junk mail, and you're always checking it. That kind of. But now we've evolved. They know how to get past the filters now. So obviously, the technology, security technology, catches up, and now our bad actors are trying to get past the filters. So we have spear phishing and whaling, right? So spear phishing is when the target is usually one organization, and it says the fraudulent emails are sent to a handful of well-researched employees. So I've actually experienced this in real life, but hopefully none of you had to, but luckily nothing was compromised. But it would be where they gather intelligence on your company. So if you think about it, you have a website, you have who the contacts are, right? This is our business officer, this is the CEO, this is the founder, right? And then we have the individuals, the office assistant, whatever. You may even have the email address of that person on the website. Well, there you go. Then they find that person on social media, right? See what they put out there. Okay, now we've got more intelligence. So now we can write something really crafty instead of, I'm the Prince of Nigeria and you need to send me money for the gold. This is more targeted. So that's where they get spear phishing. You're not just throwing it out there, you're targeting a particular fish, right? Okay. So the example there at the bottom, an email stating that a specific vendor-related payment has failed due to incomplete details, and a fake link is shared to retry the payment process. There you go. If they're in a hurry and they're going, obviously in this case, they might go for the accounting people, right? Or the purchasing. They already know who they are, right? They're in a hurry and they send a realistic invoice to them, maybe from a company they know they deal with because it's on the website. Okay, there you go. Whaling is the last one, and then we'll move on. This is the longest slide that I have. So this is the background into how Business Premium features will address these advanced phishing techniques. So whaling is when they target the top guy, right? That's where the majority of the organizational information is with the executives, right? If you can get them, you can get everybody. Get the big fish, right? Don't mess with the small ones. So it's similar to spear phishing, and they're using sophisticated technology and very high intelligence. Sometimes they take several months to research these people, right? So in this case, they would send a carefully crafted email that appears to be from the organization's CEO or another high up person to share employee details and payroll details. So I had one of these where they had obviously researched, and this is more of a spear phishing, but it did come from the head of the company, and it came from an email address that was a private one, but it was her name. And she said, it's the weekend and I want to have a staff appreciation on Monday. And they targeted the new employees because the new employees did not have training, right? So they knew they were new employees. They've been researching us. And they targeted the new employees, and they got the email and they're like, can you do me a big favor and get some Apple Pay cards and I will reimburse you on Monday. Then they followed up. So the conversation starts. Oh, they replied to me. The conversation starts. Then they go, oh, hey, I don't have the phone list. Can I have your cell phone number so I can just talk to you about it? They give their cell phone number. Now they're on the hook. Now it's gone beyond email, right? Now it's gone. They have their personal. Then they're texting away. And finally they came to me and said, I'm getting this text and I think it had to do with that email. And I did respond, right? So there's an example. It got stopped and it wasn't entirely malicious. There wasn't a lot of high stakes, but they could have bought the Apple Pay cards for them and they'd have been scammed out of their money. Okay, great. enough talk about that. So here's a slide that talks about how we can fight those phishing attempts with business premium. So I know this is more of like subscription stuff, but it's important to know. And things have changed, so it gets really confusing if you're looking on the web for like blogs and information, because they used to call this plan advanced threat protection. So it's like you'll see ATP, but now, of course, Microsoft likes to rename things all the time. So I broke it down. This is Exchange Online Protection. And again, you should get these in all email systems, whether it's Microsoft or not, Gmail. Anti-malware protection, anti-spam, and anti-phishing. Okay. With Business Premium, you get this Defender for Office 365. This is advanced threat protection. And it includes all these. Plus, under anti-phishing, you also get impersonation. So in the case, and this is the funny thing, this was that layer that we needed, right? Because it would have caught somebody's posing with the CEO's name and a different email address. It would have caught that, right? And that would have never made it through. I would have had that. Okay. And then we also go further with safe links. So this is where it's a time of click real-time protection. So if you remember, we talk about layers of defense. If the email does make it through the normal anti-malware spam phishing filter, and it has a link in it that is malicious, we'll talk about it in a little bit, how that might happen. They click on it, it'll scan it right there in a sandbox, okay, and block it right away. And then safe attachments works very similarly. If that attachment makes it through, they launch it, it launches it in a sandboxed, which is kind of like a protected area away from your computer to see if there's anything strange going on. And again, it'll block, quarantine, whatever setting you make. Okay, so overview. I wish I had more funny slides, but we don't. Okay, here's the impersonation protection. So that was the first one I talked about. We're going to do impersonation, safe links, safe attachments. Then I'll quickly just take you in the admin portal this time so you can see it in action, because it's really important to see the advanced reporting that you can get when you have these turned on. Okay, so here's that email, similar to what I was talking about, right? Thomas Edison. He's the CEO of our company. Or maybe he's the business officer. No, he's the CEO. And this is a very personal email. If you got this in your box, you'd be like, oh, okay, he's in Florida. He's sending from his personal email address. He must be having fun, not on his work computer. And he's asking for funds to be wired for a payment for one of their suppliers. I mean, this looks real, right? And again, this would be very similar to the attack that I was just talking about, because in this case, ransomware is not being installed. They're not clicking on anything, but people are giving away money by getting tricked. And that's social engineering. And social engineering is just that, where they prey on the victim's feelings of trust. In this case, you trust the CEO. It's about money, a sense of urgency, right? So there you go. Okay. So let me just look at my notes. Sorry. We covered all that. Let's see what safe links looks like. And I'll show you impersonation, how you would turn that on then. So safe links is what I talked about. The link made it through our Exchange Online protection, the anti-malware, the anti-spam. It made it through. Thank you. And now we want time of click protection, right? Like we want that extra layer of defense. And then you're like, how did it make it through, right? How did that make it through? So again, when we talked about the threat landscape, scammers are getting smarter. They can research just like us. Like, how does this work? How do the spam filters and how it was like, okay, so now how do we get emails through that? Because we know they have that protection turned on. So now we got to get craftier. So what has happened in the past few years is they're getting smarter, and they'll create like a link. And I don't know if you can see it in this, but like the bit.ly links, the shortened URL links, they'll create one of those and it actually points to a valid site, right? So when it goes to the scan, it's a valid site. It's a valid email address, right? Nothing fishy looking here. So it sends it on through. Well, then the user gets it. So in the meantime, the scammer's waiting for it to get delivered to the mailboxes. It gets delivered to the mailboxes, and then guess what they do with that shortened link? They go change where the shortened link points to. So see how they made it in the front door? Yeah. They made it through the first layer, and now the user could possibly click on it. Julie's. What actually happens with safe links is it'll work across your Office apps too. So below you can see I have, this is Teams in a chat, and there's a link in there as well, because it's not only email. It says it's not only email. But what happens is when they click on that, it will scan it at the point that they click on it. Okay. It scans it in a safe area, and I will show you what that looks like. Here we go. Here's one. They click on it. And you can see it actually sends it out to this safe links protection area, like a sandbox, and sees if the site is malicious. And there's a lot of intelligence going on in the background, ratings, and, anyway, it will determine if it's malicious or not, block the user. And again, those are customizable as to what happens. So rolling on to safe attachments, right? So now we talked about impersonation. We talked about safe links, right? That's links. Now we're going to talk about safe attachments. So we'll say an email with an attachment manages to get past all of the other Exchange Online protection measures because it's coming from a clean IP address, right? It uses brand new malware code. Okay, so none of the engines can detect. There's no signatures that are recognizable. The antivirus engines didn't recognize it yet. And it doesn't even have a very spammy look to it, okay? Well, safe attachments provides, just like safe links, an additional layer of protection, and it will launch that in a sandbox, which is like a virtual machine that's spun up in the background. And what it does is it knows, so with malware, it may not be a piece of malware that's recognized, that's not in the wild. So this might be a 0 day, right? It's not recognized yet. 0 day is, it just came on the scene, right? But with the scanning of it, it's looking for behaviors. So safe attachments, the great thing about it is it's behavior based. So what happens when that's launched in that protected area? Is it trying to change your registry? Is it trying to install a keylogger so it can record your keystrokes? What is it doing? And if it detects any suspicious behavior, and that I put up here, this would be it's scanning it as it comes through your email. So you have a choice. It might send the email through without this, and you'll see it saying it's scanning and it's determining whether it's safe or not before you can look at it. But yeah, you can decide, of course, obviously to quarantine it, block it, delete it. There's choices in the admin center of what to do. And then here's where I like to show that it's beyond email, right? You can protect files in SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams, and you can turn a toggle on to turn Defender for Office 365 on for those things. So if somebody did have a malicious attachment and they had downloaded it, it would scan it and put this on it, and then they can't do anything. It shows in there, but they can't do anything with it. Okay. So let's quickly go through a little bit of a demo on how you would accomplish this and look at the admin portal a little bit and how you'll enable these features. And the nice thing is there's policy templates, and it's a lot simpler than it used to be because there were so many separate portals to get this done. Now they've brought it into one place and they have these templates. So the templates are nice because you can pick the preset policies and you can say what level of protection you want. Give me a second to share my screen. Okay. So here we are in the admin center. And today we're dealing with security. So security would be the Defender portal. Now, because we have Business Premium, we're going to have more than just this email and collaboration, the Office Defender for Office 365. We're also going to have Defender for endpoint features, which is the Defender for Business. So we're seeing that in here. We're not going over it today, but just be aware you do have that. And we also, and this is the part we're going to go through today. Really quick though, I would like to start with this secure score. So if you've never looked at your secure score, you can see. And then when we talk about all those threat areas, when I show you the big complicated slide, you can see identity, data or documents, apps, and I don't have devices on here because I don't have any loaded in Tune. But this corresponds with what we talked about, right? The areas we're trying to protect, right? So I like you to see this because obviously this is a demo, this is not, but I don't have MFA enabled. And we talked about that in our first webinar. And if you don't have multi-factor authentication enabled, you get majorly dinged on your score. So yes, I'm dinged there. But today we're talking about, remember it was under applications. Here's the controls that they suggest that you need to improve your security posture. So we've got safe links, we've got safe attachments, turn them on in bug mode. We have all these things that apply. Look, impersonation protection. And those are all a part of that Defender for Office 365 P1. Okay. So let's take a look at what it looks like to enable those. And you could actually go in here and it would tell you how to do it, but we're going to go through with just taking care of it in one fell swoop. And notice you do have real-time detections too, which is really important. Of course, I don't have any detections because we haven't sent any mail on my demo, so I have really nothing to show you, but okay. And we're going to do threat policies. And then here's the preset security templates. And so just for the visual, again, so by the time we're done here, we should all have this figured out. These three are in EOP, Exchange Online Protection, okay? Impersonations inside of the anti-phishing policy. So again, you would have to have premium to get the impersonation feature. And then safe attachments and safe links are part of business premiums. And I don't think these even show on the portal if you don't have it. So let's take a look at the preset security policies. So the good thing is Microsoft has figured out when people have a tenant, you think, oh, I have all these features. Are they turned on or are they not turned on? They have, like, just like MFA, they do have a default, like, turn on MFA as soon as the tenant's created. That's pretty smart because if you thought you had all those features and you didn't turn them on, you're not being protected. So there are default layers of protection or levels. So again, the safe attachments and safe links, if you have this plan, then you will have built-in protection, okay, for those. But if you need to go beyond that, right, you want to go with standard or strict. Why might you want strict? High value target, right? If you have a high value target, you may want very aggressive actions when malicious mail comes in, and you might want to use more machine learning. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a standard protection so you can see some of the settings. It's confusing because you think, I've got to go into all those different policies, the anti-malware, anti-spam, and set all the settings. And they've made these templates so that it walks you through. So now you can see it's walking us through EOP. Turn it on, right? All recipients. I guess I'll create one. Defender for Office 365 protection, right? There you go. It includes, and you'll see, then we'll roll into impersonation, but we want to turn that on for all recipients, safe attachments and safe links. And then impersonation. So that's what we talked about, where they're using a name that's familiar in the organization, and they may, so I'm sure you see it, but like, let's say we're BEMO, right? We're BEMOpro.com. They might have it come through as BEMO Pro, but one of the O's is a 0, right? And then the name of the person is exactly the same. The domain is registered, it's valid, no problem. We can send the email, it makes it through all the filters, but the fact we know that this is probably spear phishing or a whaling attempt because the business or the threat intelligence is saying, we never seen Thomas because there's a map. It sees like what users are sending, receiving, intelligence map, and it knows that's a new one. Thomas Edison has never emailed from that address. So then it flags it. Same with domains. You can, if you have key suppliers and partners, you can also flag ones that are impersonated from their domains because you'll be working with those frequently. And again, social engineering, they might pick one of your vendors, right? And they know you work with that and they send emails from it and you look at it and boom, you trust it. Okay. And then finally, trusted senders and domains. So this would help where if you were working with one, you don't want to over restrict. So these would be ones that you didn't want to flag for impersonation. Okay. And then when you're done, you can review all the areas. And that is the standard protection. And then you could also address strict protection with a subset of users if you want standard for all and then strict for just your high value targets. Okay. And let's see, let's go into quickly the reporting. So again, I said we have real-time reports. There was nothing, or real-time detections, but we have all these great reports. And I'd like you to see it anyway, but just because we're not going over for the endpoint protection today, but this is the type of things that you could protect and monitor, right? That's where your firewall, web protection, you can look at the device health and like attack surface reduction rules. Okay. Here's the area we're focusing on today. So email and collaboration reports. So again, I don't have any fun stuff to show because I had nothing, no email going through, but it will show the flow status, what was detected, what it was detected with, the anti-phish, the anti-spam, the anti-malware, right? You can see where the URL protection came in. You can see who was compromised, right? And then obviously you'd want to set up some kind of alert. You don't want to be going in here every day to say, oh, somebody was compromised. At BEMO, we do have a security package where we monitor those things for you. And if you're interested, get in touch with somebody and we'll set up all the configuration as well. And spoof detections. And top senders, submissions, this is the one. So user reported messages, there's an add-on that can be installed into Outlook and users would report if they saw something fishy, it made it through, they would report it and then you have a log of all the submissions and the details of it. And top senders and recipients, I used to use that a lot just because it's nice to see who your high value. Usually the ones that are the top senders and recipients are the most active and they're your high value targets that you might want strict policies on. Okay. And we'll roll back and we'll almost be there for Q&A. As soon as I can find my Teams window. All right. So when I said about the user reported messages, right? So you're like, that would make you think that your users need to be trained, right? So I guess this is where I'd kind of like to throw out a poll, and it's not just a random, get you thinking about it, right? So are your users trained? Jenna's going to throw it out there. Do you have something in place? Do the employees even know anything about phishing? There's no training. Or are they verbally trained? Do you have a policy manual that you go through when you onboard a new employee and you just talk about it? Or are you using a phishing simulation program to train your employees? So at BEMO, we use KnowBe4, and we do provide that as an add-on product. But KnowBe4 is a platform for awareness, training, and testing. So while I'm waiting for answers here, I can answer us. So yeah, you want to start really thinking about this because it's like you can throw out all the defense in the world, right? But if your employees do something not so smart, and they put you at risk, or they were convinced and they weren't aware of it, then they've broke down all the defenses that you've built. I'm sure there's a great analogy. I just can't think of a good one. All right. So let me just kind of wanted to roll from there into social engineering. I mentioned it a little bit about what social engineering was, the manipulation of people preying on what they trust and what's familiar in a sense of emergency. We talk about email, right? And phishing with email. And this cycle of, right, you want to phish them, you want to analyze it, the results, and then you want to train them. And you can, the training, there's online modules where the training goes specific with the type of phishing. So it's smart not to use the same phishing campaign all the time. And you want to, if you're doing the phishing, I dare to say it's kind of fun, but it is kind of fun to craft the email because you know your employees and what's important. So if it's payroll, which is always important, right? That would be the kind of phishing simulation you'd want to send out. Give it the sense of urgency, maybe spoof the email address a little bit, change just one character of the email. And you want to get those employees like aware and on guard. That's your best bet in anything. And then it gets them comfortable coming to you and reporting stuff. And you don't want it to be too late and you're getting notifications everywhere and they were embarrassed to say something. Okay. Here's a great example, and then we'll go into Q&A. I've talked enough, but I like this example because it was a real life example here in Arizona, and maybe it was in other places as well, but where social engineering goes outside of technology for a bit. Okay. So getting in the minds of people, someone goes through in downtown Scottsdale and people are parked at parking meters and they put on flyers on their windshields and they have QR codes on them. Right. And it says, the flyer says, you have been ticketed, right? You must go scan the QR code to pay on the online system. You have 30 days to pay or whatever, right? Looks real. And it says Scottsdale Police Department at the top. So again, that's a person of authority, right? The Scottsdale Police Department. So I'm gonna do this, right? And then it takes them to a site, and it was a carefully crafted site that looked like the Scottsdale Police Department with a payment system. And guess where the money went? It didn't go to the Scottsdale Police Department. So I know the training and awareness isn't just about email anymore, right? It's about everything. So I know there's a campaign like KnowBe4 has one that deals with QR codes, right? And so I think somebody I saw did it where they put on the lunch table at work a QR code to get like a free coffee or whatever. And it was a scamming thing. And they had employees put the personal information, but the QR code went to the KnowBe4 portal. So then they got to train those users like, hey, that's dangerous. Okay, enough said about that. And as we always say, I've been saying it the whole way, how do you get the full spectrum of protection? Business premium, you have to be under 300 users, right? But you can mix and match. We've got our licensing experts on here to talk about that if you go over 300. And then we went over several of the pieces, but I will bring up a slide if you have questions about the different areas. So today we just focused on one little area. We sent out the links on the other webinars that focus on two of the other areas, but we've not touched on Defender for Business yet. So that's the or for endpoint piece with detection and advanced detection and response. And it's like the enterprise level security that you get in Business Premium. And we haven't talked about information protection, which is preventing leaks of your sensitive data, like credit card information.